All right, how's everybody doing tonight? This is week 2, CIS280. A couple announcements just as far as events coming up. Some of you already registered, I know, for this, but October 25th is our first Tech Expo. We have about 85 registered right now. And what it is an opportunity for students to connect to local employers. And it's a 2-hour event from 6 to 8 on Tuesday night. If you do have a CIS class, you're going to be going over there anyway. All the CIS instructors that have a Tuesday night class will be going in that time frame to the event, but still need you to register if you wouldn't mind, because there are some door prizes we're giving away. One is the top one's a 4-credit hour starting fall 2017. Second's an iPad mini, and third is a wireless USB hard drive. And so 57 days, 2 hours, 24 minutes, and 24 seconds left. So, no, my original goal was 75, or our original goal was 75. We've already surpassed that, so pretty happy about that. And the agenda basically is 4 local tech CEOs and presidents are going to speak for like 25, 30 minutes. Then after that, there'll be tables of businesses around the atrium, the RVC student atrium, and you guys will be able to go around and talk to local employers and get hired right on the spot for internships. That's the plan. And so I'm pretty excited about that. If you've had me as a professor, you know I'm really passionate about getting students connected to jobs, and so that's right up my alley. So avail yourself to go to the website and register, rvctechexpo.com. It does go over on the website. You can find out if you start at the very top of it. Minimize it just a little bit for this monitor. You can click about the event. It'll take you right to this screen, tell you about the event, agenda, speakers, and you can find out more about the speakers as well. There's speaker bios as well that you can go through and look at all the speakers, as well as advice from CIS alumni. We do have an app we have out right now, a web app that loops through and gives advice from CIS alumni who have graduated Rock Valley or taken 1 or more CIS courses, maybe went on to something else. And so it is going to be located at the student atrium, and you can register right from within the site. So questions about RVC Tech Expo. You can invite your family and friends. It's open to the public as well. Next one is next Wednesday, or this Wednesday actually, 2 nights from tonight is our first hack night. It's our inaugural hack night. Basically, it's a time set aside for coders or anyone generally interested in technology to gather and hack. Anyone's free to work on projects. You can work on projects for this class, other classes, mingle with fellow students, and even just hang out. Pizza will be provided, and you can go to whitehats.us, whitehats.us, and it'll take you right to this page where you can register. And then we did have last Saturday our first RVC Hour of Code. I did have a CIS student volunteer to help for the event. We had about, I believe, 15 show up, ranging from 7 years to 67. And so they did a great job. And I still have the tutorial up here if you guys want to grab it before you leave. You can take it home and play with it and see what it's all about. And the next one's going to be in September, the 4th Saturday. And the one we did this last Saturday was Classic Maze by Mark Zuckerberg. And it also has information about our courses on the back of it. So you're more than welcome to take that. And it's a lot of fun. It's an hour. They get a certificate at the end, those who attend. And I usually have CIS students like yourself kind of volunteer when you can. That would be great. And so the next one, let's see here, is date-wise. It's already sold out, September 24th. September 24th at 9 o'clock in this room from 9 to 10, done. And that one's already sold out. Let's see, we've got some spots in October, and then the last one's in December. So love for you to come to that. That'd be great. All right, so let's go ahead and also want to mention, I'll re-mention it again at the end of class next Monday. Campus is closed because of Labor Day, but we're still going to have class. It'll be online. Everything's already done already. Podcasts are already finished. So you can just, instead of coming here, just do it from home. The thing you're going to have to kind of do, though, and work around your schedule is you'll have to do the in-class and the take-home here in the lab. I'm going to try to tweak it down to where you just have one assignment. So like your in-class and assignment will all be one, so you don't have to worry about doing two separate. So it'll be a little shorter week, but there'll be a lot of reading next week, I know. And if you haven't already done your reading on, up to this point, or I know everybody's done the reading. If you haven't done your reading, I would say make sure and do your reading each week. That's going to help you out a lot. If you do have, as far as an iPad right now or any iOS device, I do have some apps I'm going to recommend in the podcast next week for you, some late date podcast or late date apps that Apple's put out on iOS, learning iOS Swift. And there's even some ones for just PDFs on learning Swift. We're going to look at one tonight, actually, when we go through variables. So a lot of cool stuff Apple's bringing out for Swift learning. So tonight we're going to go to Intro to Xcode, just some screens first. Going to go over some Xcode screens. We played around with Swift Playground a little bit. We're still going to play around with it as well this week. Your take-home is a Swift Playground assignment, but your in-class is your first hello world in iOS using Swift. We'll be able to build an actual GUI interface and use a simulator on Xcode. And that takes a little bit the first time, so that's normal. So we'll do a little variables in Xcode tonight. So this is the top paid apps on the App Store. Minecraft is still #1. I played it with my grandson actually Saturday. We played, he set up his world and then I joined him and he showed me how to build a house out of TNT and blow myself up. That's what we did. So and it was a lot of fun. And so if you get a chance to play Minecraft, do it. It's available for all platforms, but it's very addicting. And what's neat I like for Jaden is, I tell him when he comes over to play with the iPad, you have to create something. And he does. He's created whole cities from hospitals to schools to shopping centers to nursing homes, the whole thing. You have to take care of pets. You can dig a well, and so it's about building cities, fortifying cities, and you do have to take care of your fellow animals and creatures. I'll say that there's a lot of different names, which I'm not going to try to tell you what they all are. And so he's actually teaching me more about Minecraft than I know. And so, but it is a fun game. The Pocket Edition is the one I'd recommend, because you can set up your own world and invite anybody from anywhere in the world to connect via username. And I would recommend it. It's tons of fun to do. Warning though, you will get into the game for sure. That's probably why it's #1, because it's, but it is a logic game. That's what I like about it. You have to think. So that's a good thing. It's not just a mindless game. You kind of, what's funny with Jaden is, he's only 7, but he'll get way ahead of me and say, "Where are you at?" And I'm like, I'm like 350 yards away from him. He lost me a minute ago, and he's already built 2 houses. He said, "Stay right there." I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Close your eyes, just stay right there." A minute later, he said, "Okay, open them up." He hit the TNT wall with a flint, and it blew up in about 2 seconds. So it blew me up as well. So, anyway, that's what we did on Saturday for about an hour. But it was a lot of fun. I think I mentioned already, some of these were here last week. I know most all of them were. Might be a few new ones, I think. Maybe RotoWire. Okay, that's fantasy football. Football's coming up, so that's why that's there. Riptide, that's a good one. Heads Up, I mentioned. If you've not played that one, definitely play that one. It's good. It's a good family app to get your family involved in technology instead of everybody away kind of in their own corner. I've not used it, but I've heard good things about this Hot Schedules for business. It does cost $3, but it's a really good scheduling app for businesses. Free ones. The new one is Flip Diving, I believe. I don't think that was here last week, number 1 anyway. Snapchat's went down. It was in the top 3. It's number 6 now, but it's still up there. Uber has added a whole bunch of new features to their app. One of the new things Uber's doing, I think I mentioned last week, is they're working on autonomous. A couple car providers, or one car provider, I can't remember the name of the car manufacturer, is working on a vehicle that's autonomous driving specifically for Uber. And so they're doing some prototyping right now for it. So that'll be kind of cool if you're into that, which I kind of like to watch, kind of, see people get killed or not, or whatever. And so it's kind of fun to see. So anyway, the rest of these, I think, were all here last week. So Xcode is what we're going to cover tonight. This is a screenshot of Xcode version 7. I think we're on 7.2 or 3 or something like that now. But the look and feel is all the same. You've seen this already. Last week, I take it back. We've not done this in class. You might have played with it and seen this through your reading this week. But this is the first screen you see when you start a new Xcode project. And notice you can get around Playground. You can create a new Xcode project, check out existing projects. And by the way, when you start using Xcode on a Mac, it'll, like any program, it'll start putting recent projects in here that you've worked on. The one thing I warn against, I guess, I never use that because I move my projects around so much. I generally will use, and we'll learn how to use this actually in week 4, GitHub, because GitHub allows you to open up the project and it finds it within your Mac. That way you don't kind of like mistakenly open something up that's not there. Worst case scenario, though, if you open something up that's recent and it's not there, it'll just say it's not there, no big deal. You got to find it. But I usually use GitHub. That way I know I'm working on a project that's linked to GitHub. That way it's not just linked to my local Mac, because if it's linked to my local Mac and it crashes, which I haven't actually had happen on my new Mac, but my old Mac I did, and it could happen. I could lose my content, but being linked to GitHub, it's going to be sourced on GitHub's website, which we talked a little bit about last week on the intro, how it's a source control repository we'll be using here. It's a lot of fun. One of the stories I mentioned about GitHub, I'll mention it more in week 4 when we meet again in class, is a guy was getting married, just got engaged. And like most guys, wait till last minute to do all engagement stuff, because I know my son just got married a few years ago, and procrastinate all to the very end. Anyway, his job was to create a website for the bride and groom. So he was a programmer, used GitHub. He goes, well, I'm going to use GitHub, just throw some stuff up there first, start working on it. So he put a little website together, threw it up on GitHub, left it there for like a month and a half, didn't touch it, came back, and it was like totally redone, because in GitHub you collaborate with, it was a public site, so anybody can go in and make changes, and if you make your site that way, and submit things. Anyway, over time, like 850 people connected to his wedding site and started making it look really nice. I mean, it looked like really professional. He was a pretty good web designer, but he didn't have to do any work. So anyway, he touched it up a little bit more. Added some new pictures, showed it to his fiance, and she was really impressed. And he almost kept it real secret, until like about a week before he spilled the beans and goes, I wasn't really the only one to help on this. He goes, 850 other people helped me on this. And so I thought that was a cool story, though, how GitHub is more than just something that you can do by yourself. It's a community. And so anytime I create new projects, especially in here, it's always on a public site on our GitHub page. And I created a handle for this course a while back called iOS course. And, we have hundreds and hundreds of repos in there. And people have connected to them over the years that have used part of it for their apps. And that's what it's all about, or give feedback. And so sharing code and sharing in community is great. Because one of the quotes Steve Jobs said while he was alive was, no company survives without a team. Now, he was pretty hard on his team, but he had a team, and he really leaned on them heavily. And same with programming. On any coding, you really need one another. and especially larger apps, right? Like Minecraft has literally like 1,500 and some developers. Angry Birds has like 17,000 developers of all different versions that they have out there all over the world. And so, group developing, sharing code, I think just makes the developing concept and process much richer, and you can get some really cool ideas from people to just give their knowledge away, which you will be one of those people in here that does that, and it really feels good to do that, to help people out. So one of the first, when you select an Xcode project, which we'll do here in a second, is you get to select different types of applications for iOS. Notice you can do master detail, page-based, single view, tabbed, or game. So master detail is used to create a list-based application where you select an item from a master side and display stuff on the detail side. And so basically, you've got this going on master detail. You've got your master here and your detail here, and you got maybe menus from an app, a menu app from an app. They click on a menu item, and it shows up over here in detail. And you guys have all been on those already. Like Notes app's a popular one that does that. Calendars do that. A lot of games do that now to bring in and collapse menus to see or show or hide according to what you want. But really popular to showcase. Companies will use this a lot. Any company comes to me and wants to convert their website to an app, I always tell them we start out with master detail because it really simulates a website, but the navigation is collapsible and you can see more, be able to utilize more real estate. And we've all seen apps maybe that have big buttons and things like that, which is okay, but it takes up real estate and it maybe could be utilized for richer content or something like that. So the first was master detail. Second is page-based. This creates kind of like a book type of app where you can flip it, like a magazine. Any magazine that creates an app will use page-based because you can literally take your finger and flip it through to the different pages. And as you flip it, the app actually simulates a page turn, and you might have seen those as well. An example of that would be any of your books or novels converted into iOS, do a page-based type of app. Tab-based is different tabs across the bottom of the app that displays items to go to. Generally, no more than 3 to 4 tabs is usually the rule. You get more than that, it gets really ugly and tight. But a lot of games will use tab-based. We'll do the tab-based option, again, because it uses a lot of good real estate in a good way, because when you click on a tab, you literally have all the real estate of the screen except for that tab that you clicked on. A lot of times you can even program it to where even those tabs can hide as need be. Single view, that's the most popular, and that's the one I generally start apps with. Because with the single view app, you can create it's a basic template of a single view, a single form that you can add anything to and have your own free reign of manipulating your app. I'm more of like that in that school of thought. I like to manipulate it from the beginning, have no templates, no extra stuff. When you're learning, it's great to have that, though, because it's great to have the extra stuff to just see how stuff works, which I did myself, and you'll do it yourself as well. But as you get to know more about coding and more comfortable with it, you want to just start with a clean slate, right, and just start adding what you want to add. A couple examples of what we'll be doing this semester here in a few weeks, actually. I think it's next week in week 3. I'll show you one called My Faves. It's a web-based app that goes to different websites using a web browser object. And you start out with a single page or single view application, and then build in your, add in your master detail on top of that. And so it's fairly easy to do once you do it the first time. And what's great about everything you're going to learn this semester is you'll have once it's completed and you're done, let me back up a little bit more. When you start any of the software applications I have you do each week, your homework assignments, generally I always have the solution already completed for you to look at. If you haven't looked ahead already a little bit and seen that, to where you can actually download it, install it, run it, see what it does before you ever start yours. And I recommend that, especially when you're learning, because it's real difficult to learn something, for me anyway, if I haven't seen the end result of what I'm ending up needing to build, if that makes sense. And so that's how I kind of teach. Some of you might not need that, but a lot of you might need that. And so that's just how I do it. So if you don't need that, you can just disregard the final project apps I give you on each week with the example and just start it yourself and see how you do. But it's there if you need it, which is awesome. That way you can pull it up, see what errors you might have, see what issues you might have from the final or from the solution file. And so the last one's gaming. And we actually do not get into gaming in this class. I do on my boot camp do a gaming one. I think the first week or two, I think we do. But I will make the gaming one available. In fact, all the stuff I'm updating for my boot camp for May already. If you're interested in looking at that stuff, you're more than welcome to ask me, and I can give you links to all this stuff to play with. On your, I'm not going to require you to do it, but you can. It has a PDFs of how to do it step by step, videos, and the source control. But gaming is hugely popular, right? In fact, if you look at the App Store, I would say 85% of the apps people download are games in relation to a game of some type. I mean, even in fitness stuff, which I've been trying to lose weight since May. I've lost like 25 pounds. Don't applause, I'm not there yet. I'm still losing weight. But a lot of the fitness apps I found are game related, which keeps you kind of interested. It keeps you motivated, I guess, for me anyway, because you get a little trophy after you do something right. And you're like, well, who cares if it's a trophy? I need it. I need the trophy. I need the motivation. And so they make a game out of it, just about anything anymore, just because that's how we are. That's how we're kind of wired now as a culture. But gaming uses what's called Sprite Kit. Sprite Kit was released a few versions back. And Sprite Kit brought into iOS all the needed bells and whistles to build your own game. When I first started teaching this course, spring 2013, we had to use third-party sprites that other developers created, including Google, because they're the only ones on the market really doing anything that big at that time. But since they brought Sprite Kit in with Swift, companies you might have heard of like EA Games, when they go to create a new game, they do Apple now with iOS because of their Sprite Kit. But EA had something to do with it. Not only did they develop one of the first games using Sprite Kit and 3D rendering, 3D games development, their developers helped Apple, which made sense, get the Sprite Kit and the 3D rendering engine up to speed with what it needed to be to create cool, awesome 3D games. Which who better to do it than EA Games and their developers? So that's all they do. And so other things in gaming related with gaming would be like storybooks, animation with Pixar, tons of stuff. I mean, my grandson, we have a storybook he used to read at night when he spent the night with us. He's getting too old. He doesn't want to do it anymore. But it was a cool storybook, bedtime stories, right? Where they read a lesson about caterpillar and coming into a butterfly, and then but every page was highly 3D graphical rendered, and you could drag stuff around and make cool noises, and I mean it was pretty awesome. And so he could build stuff with it and didn't really have to have a learning how to. It was just pretty intuitive of how to do it. And so, and you've probably seen apps like that yourself. But in fact, I'll mention an app we actually found at the App Store, at the Apple App Store. I didn't know about it till I went there. Tons of kids were playing it. And I always find good games when kids like 10 and under are playing it, like all the time. It's usually a pretty good game because they don't like stupid games that don't make anything. Well, they do sometimes. Take it back. So Office Jerk might be one that's kind of a stupid game, but it's a popular one. Let's see. You might jot this down. It's a fun one to play with. If I can find it here. Not Minecraft. Just played it. Leo's Fortune. Anybody heard of that? Leo's Fortune? Leo's Fortune's an awesome multi-level game. I think it's got 25 or 30 levels. Awesome 3D graphics and rendering in that game. It's pretty challenging. You can finish it all. The guy had finished it when I was reading the reviews. But it's a fun kind of logic game as well. But Leo's World's a popular one, using what's called Metal and 3D rendering both in that game. So when you first create an Xcode project, let's say we create a single view one, it comes to this screen, which I'll show you another one in just a second when we do ours. The top field is your product name. That's basically the app name. Now, if you're just playing around, you're not really thinking about putting it on the App Store anytime soon, you can create this whatever you want to while you're learning, whatever name you want to, like My Cool App or something, My Cool App 1, 2, 3, 4 to infinity. But if you're thinking of putting this on the App Store, put some thought into the name when you create it. And one of the reasons for that is it's kind of difficult, not impossible, to rename projects, especially when they get really large. So I always tell students, look on the App Store if you think it possibly could go to the App Store ever. And these are apps you'll create on your own, like your final app you'll be creating in a few weeks or starting anyway. So look at the App Store of all the different apps in your genre that you're looking to create. See if the names are, what name that you want is available, okay? Then kind of toss the name around to non-techie, geeky type of people in your life, which you all have, right? And see what they think, if it makes sense. What does this app think? What do you think this app would do? And then just give them the name. And if they have no clue, probably not too good of a name, okay? If you have an idea, maybe, should be some functionality in the name of some type, okay? Like Angry Birds, okay? What's it about? Angry Birds, yeah, okay? So, Minecraft, what's it about? You're mining items that are different craft tools. Pretty basic name. So the names don't have to be like really cool, but they want to be somewhat catchy, but also descriptive, and they can exist, which kind of, as time goes on, as you can imagine, is probably going to get harder and harder to do. But you're creative. I know you are. You can reach down and think of one that's kind of awesome. But the nice thing about it is once you think of a name and you've got it locked down, it doesn't exist, and let's say you have a full developer license down the road, you can go ahead and push that app to the developer area in Apple before you ever publish it. And what that'll do is reserve that name for you before you publish it, if that makes sense. Now, there is a time window. You can't be like forever, but like a year and a half, something like that. They will kind of hold that name. Because when they do the search for names, they don't only search for names in a live store, they also search for names that are in repo before being pushed live. So that's just a thought. I know it's a little bit more beyond what we're learning right now, but I know some of you are already thinking it, probably. And so that's an idea that I'll give you now that will help you. So product name is important. Then next is organization name. Again, when you're learning, developing, this can be whatever. We're going to use in here Rock Valley College, okay, for organization name. And then the identifier is going to be like a reverse URL. Notice this one is com.payload media. Ours here that we're going to use in here is edu.rockvalleycollege. So the fully qualified bundle identifier is the organization name dot product name or app name. So com.payloadmedia.helloworld. Ours is going to be edu.rockvalleycollege. Whatever you name your app. Language is Swift. The other languages available for mobile app development is Objective-C, which we don't teach here anymore. It's not that it's not a good language, because it is. I still develop in it because I have apps that were created in that. Any new apps, I think I told you last week, I do create in Swift. But it's not a bad language to learn after you learn this language, to maybe pick up Objective-C. You can pick up, well, the site we're using for our online reading does have some Objective-C stuff in there as well. That company does. And the reason I picked the site we use for reading is, number one, it's free to use. Number two, If you do want to download the entire PDF, I think it's only like $8 or $10 or something. It's pretty cheap to download. And after you've downloaded it, you can put it on your tablet or whatever and do a quick reference search to it, because you lose all the ads and stuff like that. They're gone. Then devices. Notice this one says universal. All that means is it's capable to run on iPhone or iPad. And Apple does recommend, if at all possible, to create your app as a universal app. Can you think of an app, though, that would not work as an iPhone app that you use, maybe? Think of an app you use that would not work as an iPhone app, and why? Why wouldn't it work? Think for just a second. It doesn't have to be in the iOS world. It can be in the Droid world if you played one that's a tablet-sized game and they do not have it on the phone. Anybody think of one? What was that? Google Play? The Play Store? Yeah. No. Oh, no. But, okay, I'll help you out. Let's do the game genre. Maybe they're doing a hacked one, possibly. But let's think of a game genre. Can you think of some games like NFL Madden, which is an old school game, but they did make it into an iOS game, I guess, recently in the last couple of years. Anyway, would that make a good iPhone game? Like a phone game? Or why wouldn't it? Because the screen real estate is big. Yeah, I mean, the real estate on that is so small, your thumbs, once you get them in there, there's no room to navigate anything. So gaming apps generally, in general, will have a tablet version of a game and not a phone version of a game, if it's a large type of game, all right? But that's not universal. I'm just saying that right now it's not universal. But you can, if you make it tablet only, you can really do more things with the app just because you have more screen real estate to play with. Does that make sense? But if you can create a universal app, do so. And with Swift, they made it easy now when you create a universal. You just have one screen you're working with at all times, and all your layout, when you do it on this screen here, is both done for iPhone and iPad. Before Swift came out, in Objective-C, you actually had two. For every page, you had a page for the iPhone and a page for the iPad that you had to update separately and keep separately. In a way, it worked a little bit, especially if you wanted, because the iPhone might look a little different or couldn't have the same stuff as the iPad, but it was a little bit more of a headache. So universal if you can. If you can't, Apple's not going to reject your app. Or if you're doing internal apps, I've created a lot of internal apps for businesses that are for iPad only. So sales that have one nice graphs, charts, stuff like that. Looks terrible on an iPhone because you just can't see it. Now, if I pushed it to the overhead, I could see it. But if I shown it in a meeting, nobody could see it. Whereas a Pro or even a regular Mini could view it. If I was meeting with a group of people close by, they could view it. Does that make sense? We have like a emergency flood warning until 11 p.m. Okay. This screen shows what we're getting ready to do in just a bit after we get through with our discussion. This is actually the Hello RVC app that we'll be creating tonight, the screen of it. And you'll notice on the bundle identifier, it's edu.rockvalleycollege.hello-rvc. Version 1 really only right now is for, doesn't serve any purpose right now. Versioning doesn't. But it does serve its purpose when you publish it to the App Store. Because if this was version 1, which it is, and then I made a change, it'd have to be a different version before I could publish it, that new version, to Apple. Build, really, again, when you're learning and developing before it goes to the App Store, it makes no sense to even manipulate anything on that yet. But as you start building apps, I generally do follow this logic with version and build. I mimic build with version, whatever. So if it's version number 2, I put build number 2. That's just how I do it. But you could, I've seen people do builds like, 1.1.1, 2, 1.1, 3, 1.1, so on and so forth. Team, one of the reasons I'm having you guys sign on to iCloud, and thank you for emailing me, those of you that have, with your email that you use for iCloud, because I need to put you a part of the RVC team, which currently right now we don't need. It says none. And if I was to click this fix issue button, it would ask me what team to be a part of. But since not everybody's a part of a team, we'll keep it none for now, which you can run it just fine within the simulator. And then the deployment information, this one is deployment 9.3, which is the latest iOS version. This one's made devices here for the iPhone only. The main interface is main on this one. It's portrait, landscape, left, landscape, right. You could, though, if we wanted it to just be landscape, we could uncheck this and just do landscape left and right only, which sometimes in games they'll do that because it can't be portrait. It wouldn't make any sense to be portrait, and they didn't program it to be portrait. Down at the bottom, which we'll be doing this semester, creating app icons for your app. That's another one too, that when you're first learning, you don't need to mess with that, but you will learn this semester how to create app icons. And I like to use free tools. You can use Photoshop, but I like to use an online tool called Pixlr.com, Pixlr.com, which is like an online quasi Photoshop, kind of a dumbed down Photoshop, but it has layering and everything like that in it. So that's what the screen looks like when you first create a project, kind of some of the things that you'll need to know. The next few slides, I'm going to cover the left stuff, the right stuff, and the bottom. So left, right, and bottom in the next few slides. So on the right is what's called utilities. And the utilities are just what it sounds like. So properties of all the objects like labels, text boxes, drop downs, whatever. You can rename forms, rename items within the utilities. And there's a whole bunch of different buttons within utilities that you'll learn this semester and what they're good for. On the left is a navigator of all your files. And you'll notice on the overhead, this one's called Hello RVC. And it's got an app delegate.swift, a view controller.swift, the main.storyboard. That file there is actually what is used to click on to literally drag and drop items onto a storyboard, much like a physical storyboard. So, and we'll do this a lot this semester. And that's one of the nice things about a new Xcode layout. They did this actually a few years back. Is on a storyboard. Let's say you have an app that is 6 pages. Okay, you can zoom out of a storyboard and view all 6 pages globally from like a 30,000 viewpoint of what they look like, and then you can zoom into one at a time. What's nice about storyboards is you can actually see what's called segues that these storyboards are connected to. Okay, meaning there's a button somewhere on this form that goes here, that comes back to here, so on and so forth. You can actually see the segue lines from a storyboard view. So you can literally lay out your app visually, globally, zooming out before you actually start putting any content on it, which is kind of nice to do as well. And where this comes from, by the way, is the old storyboards. We're on a whiteboard in a classroom like this, or you're in, like the two developers were in Subway, on a napkin and sketched out the first level of Angry Bird. They did it on a storyboard on a napkin and then brought it into, eventually, app developing. So that's where the concept of storyboarding comes in. But the storyboards are viewed on this main.storyboard item that we'll look at in just a second. The bottom is the debug area. The debug area allows you to see things that you will only see in development. Okay, what I mean by that is you can put hooks in your code to show things, to have things show up in the debug area during debug time. Like you want to see what a value is showing up as, or you want to see what a picture, when it shows up, numbers, logs, you can see all that within in the debug area. And it's important too, again, when you're developing to use your debug area, and we'll learn how to do that this semester. On the bottom right of Xcode of what's called the object area, the library that I've highlighted here. And you've heard of these before in other languages, or just the names make sense probably just by looking at them, what they do. A label is just a label for the form somewhere. Button does a button functionality for a click event of some type, usually when it's tapped. Segment control, different segments like maybe on or off, yes or no. F for Fahrenheit, C for Celsius, things of that nature. Text field displays editable text that the user can enter in their first name, last name, social security number, all that good stuff. And then slider, and there's much more, I'm just showing a few here. Slider, where you can slide something on an app to, maybe change the color of a background, change characters, whatever the case may be. But that's called the object library. In order to add objects, you go to that object library in the bottom right corner of Xcode and drag it to your form to add stuff. So iOS, the operating system, and Apple's mobile devices is what we're learning this semester. These next few slides we went over last week is just to recap a little bit. Just to make sure you understand some stuff here. Constants start out with the word let. And if you develop something as a constant or initiate something as a constant, you can't change it downstream. Arrays start with a 0 or more operator. I'm not going to go any more on that. We'll cover more of that in the future. But let's talk about some design stuff I think is real important on week 2 to help you with, to see the big picture of stuff. People only see one screen at a time. You're like, duh. Well, it seems like a duh thing, right? But it's different because some of you might come from a web developing or Windows developing or no developing, and you're basically the first human nature thing to do on an app is just shove everything on one page. We all did it in grade school. Whenever our teacher gave us a crayon and told us to stay in the lines, we didn't stay in the lines. We drew outside the lines. Or before they told us to stay in the lines, we drew outside the lines. I guess that's a better way to say it. Until we were told to stay in the lines, we didn't do it, right? Because we wanted to cover, color, everything. Same, I teach photography, and same thing in photography. When a person takes a photo the first time, and all of us do this, we start learning photography, we want to shove as much as we can into the photo. No white space. And one of the things I learned going through design school was the hardest thing for me to learn was putting white space in a design, meaning nothing in that design. Kind of like the Jerry Seinfeld, it's about nothing. You got to put a lot of nothing in a design to bring people's eyes to what you're wanting to focus on. Same thing in an app. We've all seen apps that are so busy that we don't even want to touch the screen. You ever been there? It's so busy, you don't want to touch it. You're like, I'm afraid I'm going to do something terrible here, so I'm not doing it. And so, but biggest difference between iOS environment, all others, is the paradigm of window placement. Okay, the paradigm of where things go. With the exception of what's called modal views, users see a single application screen one at a time, both on the iPhone, the iWatch, the Apple TV. So iPhone applications can contain many different screens as necessary, but users access them sequentially, not simultaneously at one time. That makes sense? So because of that, there's some design specifications that we're going to talk about real quick. If it's a desktop version, though, people can see multiple screens at once, right, on the monitor. We can pop up multiple screens, move things out of the way, put something in the background, whatever. Do a lot of subtasking and multitasking within that. One application is visible in the foreground at a time on any mobile device. When people switch from one app to the other, the previous application quits, and its interface goes away. Prior to version 4, which was way before most of you even thought about doing developing, it meant that you quit the application. You had to quit the application and actually delete it from memory. Now with iOS 9, they actually have the multitasking view built in the background. One of the dangers of that is some people have so many things running in the background, it really sucks their battery down quickly. And so you got to be careful as developers to make sure we utilize people's memory effectively to where we're not just using memory just because it's there. Does that make sense? So you want to be smart about that as well. So mobile users don't have the time to read through a lot of help. In fact, most people, if you're like me, when I get a new app, I read no help. If it's an app that I have to read a lot of help, it's not worth my time, right? I want something that's easy to get into, set up without a whole bunch of coach marks, which we'll learn what those are this semester. If you don't already know, little pop-ups throughout the app that a lot of times apps will use, developers. You have to actually close all the coach marks out, bum, 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 before you can do anything, right? You guys have seen those, right? So mobile users don't have time to do that. So here's a few things to help us. We're going to hit the highlights here. Use standards controls correctly, meaning make sure that you're familiar with standard controls that are already built into applications so that you already know how to use them in your application. Example, copy and pasting. That's a universal thing, right? Should be anyway. It should work in your app like it works in all the other apps. It shouldn't be disabled, right? If they need to copy something from your app to another app, should be able to do that. Another one would be launching your app in another app. Like say if you have a page, it's a web page, maybe you should be able to use Safari to launch it. Or if it's a PDF, you should be able to use a PDF reader if you want. They should be able to use that if they want to. So a movie should be able to use Apple's movie player, okay, if they want to. So all these controls need to be understood and used correctly. Be sure the path for the information you present is logical and easy to understand and predict. And again, as a developer, so many times, myself including, we get kind of silo mentality of what we think it should be. And we give it to a user and they're like, okay, I don't know what to do. Show me. Well, it's easy. You go, it's easy to do. No, I don't know what to do. Okay. It's easy to us because we developed it, right? But maybe not to the end user. So make it to where the path is easy. So when the app first opens, there's very few choices of what to do first. And they can easily look at those choices and select from them. Make sure you have such things like back buttons to go back and forth throughout your app and easily be able to find them and retrace their steps back to the beginning. You can create iPhone apps, iPad apps that run natively on your iOS. Web-only content can also be in there. We'll create next week, where basically we're using what's called a UI web view to load a web page. But because iOS is a smaller screen, even with the iPad sometimes and monitors, there's ways we can make it more effectively. Like iOS now has where you can pinch and grow or shrink any object on a web page. Hybrid application is where basically you have access to web content, but you also might have some iOS stuff only to use. Like an example would be, you might have a web content pushed from a company website that's pushed to your app, but you might also natively use a calendar control within the app to schedule things, like an event or something like that. And so you're kind of using both. And the beauty of having mobile web in an app, especially for companies, is if content's going to change a lot, you don't want to be updating your app constantly on the App Store. That's not a good thing. So you want to be able to use web modules effectively. If it's going to be an app that's updated a lot, like a news page, offerings page, whatever, that should be a web type of page and being able to be managed and not have to update the app. Does that make sense? And so we'll learn stuff like that this semester as well. So productivity, 3 types of apps: productivity, utility, and immersive. And right off the top of my head, when I think of productivity, I think of things that help me get stuff done, all right? Help me get stuff done. Calendars help me get stuff done. Notes, The Notes app helped me get stuff done. When I think of utility, calculator, if you're into doing construction, they have apps now to where you can level things in a house, a utility type of app. Weather will also be considered a utility type of app, weather app. Immersive is where you're actually immersing yourself in the app. You are involved, okay? Fitness apps are immersive. You are part of the app environment. When you walk, a pedometer keeps track of your cadence and your steps. Immersive apps, you have to involve yourself in that app for it to work and function and to flow. Gaming, you could say, is an immersive type of application. So productivity app helps you be productive. So in here they have mail app as an example. I didn't mention that one. So multiple views, usually displaying one level at a time, where you can see your inbox, your outbox, your sent. Utility app requiring minimal user input. Stock market would be another utility one. I forgot about that one. Weather is another one where you basically open it up, see your stuff, and you're done, right? See your weather for the day, stock for the day. You can drill down if you want to, but you don't have to. Here's an example of the Apple's weather app. Immersive is where people get involved. They have fun. They play games. It's a much richer environment, and people, utilize it and they get more involved with it. And maybe gaming is definitely one of those genres for immersive. I've actually used it. Anybody used an app like this for leveling in your house? It actually works really good. And you can just search for a level app and find a whole bunch of good free ones. The bubble level app, that's what this one is. You can put on top of a frame, a picture frame, which I hate hanging, but I have to do every once in a while at home. I use that app to do that. So think of an app you like to develop for free or fun of any topic. I suggest making it a free app. Check the App Store, see if it's available, like we talked about earlier. Study them to see what's out there. Try stuff. Try the apps out, okay? And after hearing about them, decide what that app's going to do and kind of make a list of it. You can draw it on paper. In fact, I recommend we do what's called prototyping here in a few weeks, where you basically prototype your final app idea before you actually put it into Xcode initially. So you kind of put it in a prototype environment of what it's going to do, how it's going to function, what target audience it's going to reach. So be thinking of that as you're going along here. Don't just port anything to iOS because it exists in another entity like Windows or Mac or Linux or Droid. Put some thought into it because I've seen iOS ported to Droid that's terrible. I've seen Droid apps ported to iOS that's terrible, and so vice versa. So just because it's in one platform doesn't mean it's going to be good in another platform or needs to be in another platform. Users will want to open your application, use it briefly, and then go on to something else, right? They don't want to be in it all day long. But if they have to give their attention to the app for long periods of time, they're going to just give up on it and not want to use it. You can have reporting versus editing. Basic on the reporting side would mean, like on the website idea of using the web modules, you can update a web page easily, very quickly, constantly, all the time, and report it upon your app versus editing your app and then updating it and having to publish it to the App Store. The 80-20 rule does apply. 80% of your, 80% of your things, your design, are going to flow through that. Only going to reach like 20% of the audience of what you focus on. Meaning that 20% that you're focusing on really needs to be, enriched. Needs a rich environment, and so 80-20 rule is important. 80% of your outcomes from 20% of your inputs. 20% of your code manages 80% of your business. 20% of total productivity of software produces 80% results. 20% of bugs fixed make 80% of software bug-free. So that's what the 80-20 rule. Focus on applications, on features that meet needs of the greatest number of people. Even only, it doesn't have to be millions of people, but let's say it helps 100 people or whatever. So it's helping some people out in some way. That's great. That's a successful app. So here's what I want you to do. In this exercise we're getting ready to do, we're going to do this together. I already have a finished app I'm going to show you, but before we do, I'm going to leave this on the screen so you can kind of follow along. On your Mac, at the bottom portion of your Mac, there is the Xcode icon that we've clicked on here already. I want you to click on it if you haven't already done so. I'm going to click on it to get it running. And we'll kind of do things. I'll switch the screen on the overhead to my Xcode in just a second. I'll make sure everybody kind of sees this one globally. What we're going to do is we're going to start Xcode. We're going to do like a simple hello world. We're going to save it, and then we'll rename it and upload it into our in-class assignment. So everybody have Xcode started? Raise your hand if you're still starting it. Okay. So I'll give you a moment there. And so as soon as Xcode starts, you'll actually just see at the very top left of your Mac, Xcode. That's how quick it is. Shouldn't take a moment to start up. On the very left corner, top left corner of your Mac should see Xcode. If you don't see that, click on Xcode again on the bottom of your Mac, where mine's highlighted. But it shouldn't take a moment to pop up. And I'll just walk around and make sure I see that on my screen. I just want to see Xcode right now is all I want to see. Yep, perfect. Okay, looks like we're there. So from the Xcode menu, to the right of that, there's one called File. I'll go ahead and have you click on that. File menu. And then New. And then scroll over there and find Project. So File, New, Project. When you find Project, click on it with your mouse. And then you're going to have an options here of what type of app to choose, like we just went over. So master detail, page-based, single view, tabbed, game. We're going to select the single view, which is, by the way, the one by default that iOS will choose for you. So make sure that's selected, then click Next. Bottom right, click Next. On the product name, I want you to put in Hello World. Right there, caps H, caps W. Organization name, just like mine on the overhead. Identifier like mine on the overhead. Language like mine. Devices, we're going to switch that to iPhone and uncheck all the ones at the bottom. So I'll keep that up here for just a moment. I'll walk around, see how you're doing. Don't go anywhere though, just keep it right there for now. That way we don't have to go backtrack. Make sure they're on the same page. It's CIS280. Username. All right, looks like we're doing good here. Everybody's there. So once you've got this information there, click Next. And here's where we have the option to save, where to save our project. And you want to make sure, and on the left side of my Mac here, you're going to do the same on yours. Click Desktop once, underneath Application and above Documents. Excuse me. Let me hide my, hang on just a second, I'm going to hide my bottom bar. I'm hiding my bottom bar here, so give me just a moment. Thanks for waiting. Let's see. Okay. Anyway, you don't see it on mine, but there is a bottom button there on Create. If you just hit the return key on your keyboard, it should do it. Return key, or just hit the button to create it, and it should go to this screen here. So I'm gonna walk around, make sure everybody has this before we go any further. And yours should look like mine. Don't sign in. Continue. Skip. Now make sure yours looks just like mine before we go any further. edu.rockvalleycollege.helloworld, version 1.0, build one, none on the team. The target should be a grayed out 9.3. If you click on the drop down though to the right of deployment target, you will see options for other target types. So go and click on that real quick while we're waiting for everybody to get there. What this is good for is if you've not yet updated your iOS device and you want to deploy your Xcode to your device, you have to downgrade the deployment target sometimes to do that, okay? That's why it's there, in order for us to be able to do that. And also make sure your device is iPhone and that the main interface says main. Okay, so go to File. File, New Project. And the name, it's going to be Single View App. And select Next. So just go Next. Then type in Hello World, caps HW. And as soon as you type that in, go down to Universal and select iPhone. Uncheck all the bottom check boxes. Click Next. Click on Desktop. Click Create. Okay, now I'm going to show you two ways to start this app. We've not done anything yet, but I'm going to show you there's a couple ways to start it. But before we do that, we're going to talk about simulators. Within Xcode, you can play with different simulators from different types of devices. So if you take your mouse and hover over where mine is on the overhead to the left of your Hello World here, you'll notice there's a whole bunch of, if you click on where it says yours says iPhone 6S Plus. I don't know if that's what yours says or not, but that's what mine says. If I click on that, I have a whole bunch of different simulators to choose from. iPad 2, iPad Air, Air 2 Pro, Retina, 4S, 5, 5S, 6, 6 Plus, 6S, 6 Plus. To save time, as you can imagine, if I selected the iPad Pro, it's going to take much longer to instigate that simulator than it would be for, like, say, iPhone 6S Plus. It's a smaller screen, smaller engine. So we'll just keep it at that, but I wanted to show you what those are. The other reason I want to show you this too is when you do connect a device to this, it would show up here at the top under devices. Right now it's none. But if I have my iPhone connected or my iPad connected, it would show up there, okay? So I'm gonna make sure an iPhone 6S is selected. And now we can do a command, the button up to the left of your shift bar, press and hold the command key, and then press and release the R button while you keep the command key pressed. So it's Command R is what it is, and then you can release both. And what this is gonna do is build your Hello World without any, we've not done anything with it yet, but we're building it to make sure it compiles correctly before we do anything, and that's always smart to do, because you don't want to build, say, work on this for an hour, and then realize there's something you didn't do on the front end, and you have to start all over again, which I've had to do before. And so just saving you some time. I always do this whenever I start a new app, just compile it the first time. Now you'll notice, like on mine, something's already started popping up here in the background, right? You can do this. You can go ahead and click on that something that's in the background, a little black box has popped up. That's the simulator. And it should have like a little Apple icon that shows up there. And we can resize this now. You'll notice it's huge, right? This is an iPhone. Look how big it is on mine. Yours might not be as big. But we can resize this window right now. Go to the Windows menu of the simulator. Go down to Scale. I'm going to change mine down to 25%. You might only have to go to 33% or something. But I have to go to 25% because when I connect my overhead here, it scales my monitor resolution down to 800 by 600. So it's really big. Yours hopefully won't be that big. I think you guys should be fine at 33%. Let me know if that's correct. Is that right? Look a little better. Because the full 100% really takes up a lot of the screen. Now this will take some time. Now here's where you do thumb wrestling. You tell stories. You go get something to drink. You go use the restroom if you want to right now. Because this is going to take a little bit to do the first time. And so here's a suggestion for us in here. Because we're on deep freeze in here, when you guys come in each session, we'll be doing something in class each time. For the most part. When you come into class and you get all logged in and everything, fire up Xcode, create a simple hello world or something like this, run it, because the first time takes a bit to run to get that simulator, because it's actually downloading the simulator and installing it on the Mac for the first time. And that takes a couple minutes usually or more. So once it's done the first time though, it doesn't take that long after that. Really quick, does that make sense? And we're actually simulating the iPhone here, iPhone 6S Plus, is that right? In the simulator. So you don't need an iOS device. What's awesome about it, you don't need an iOS device to develop an iOS. But like I said, week 1, you do need a Mac. Okay, but you don't need iOS. I did go by, I did one online to, while this is loading, and this is another thing too, I won't do it here. Make sure you don't do anything else on the Mac while it's compiling, because as you can imagine, it's using like 89, 90, 95% of the processing power right now just to compile that simulator. And anything you do right now will make it just that much longer the first time. So I always tell students, just let it sit there, do its stuff the first time. But I'll mention a story I mentioned. I was at the end of class last week, we were looking at some Macs with a student. And Apple has a website for refurbished units. And they had a Mac Mini on there, I believe, for $375, which I thought was pretty awesome. It's like a year old, but it's brand new, it's a year-old version, but brand new. And so I just want to share that with you, because if you are thinking about buying a Mac ever, and you're wanting to developing, I would recommend Mac Mini is going to be much more reasonable for you. I think the cheapest laptop we could find was $785. Is that right? Can't remember who was I was helping on that. $780, $785. Yeah, was it $785? Which actually not too bad for a Mac. Do I know? Yeah, it was a laptop. Yeah, yeah. So it wasn't too bad. That was the kind the last one I just bought, which is a Mac Air, not the Pro, but just a Mac Air. Okay. Did you guys get an error on yours? Okay. I ran mine earlier, so I'll run mine again. If you do get an error like I just got, you just stop the play button here, like on a recorder. You stop it and then play again, or do Command R. And when you're finished, this is what it's going to look like. It's just a white screen because we've not put anything on it, actually. So how many still compiling theirs, or how many has theirs showed up? Raise your hand if yours has showed up yet. Okay, it looks like we're getting there. If you don't see the white screen show up, go ahead and hit the stop button and play it again just to make sure it's there. Okay, good. I hit the home button. No, that's fine. Yeah. Because one of the things you can do with the simulator, some of you looks like you already figured it out, you can simulate multiple things. So if I go to the hardware menu, I can go to the home screen, and there's my simulation of the simulator. And this one's called Hello World, which is this one right here, and I can reopen it back up. I can also do the reboot I'm not going to do. I can do the gesture shake to, if I want to go to home, and then go to shake gesture, and I can get rid of an app. Or I can just press and hold an app there, and it'll do the shake gesture to delete them. So. Okay, so I'm going to stop mine, have you stop yours as well. As soon as you stop it, I want you to go to the main.storyboard. And there's a little icon. It looks like, I don't know if you can see from where you're at. It's right here where mine is on the bottom. My mouse is moving It's right there. And it actually is a outline view. You want to collapse that. There's a little icon here that lets you do it. And I want you to bring it over to where you can see the view. And if you hover over these lines here, like right here, I can make them smaller. Or the way I like to do it when I'm first playing with it is I can take, let me resize my screen here. I can take over to the very top right corner of Xcode and click on these two icons. It'll hide both the left and right controls, and I can see my entire form on my storyboard. Okay. So what I want to do now is I want to click on the left one only right now. This one here on the upper right corner of Xcode, and excuse me, I want to make sure that I go to the launch screen.storyboard, and I'll probably have to collapse that. You'll have to collapse that outline again. What this is for is anything you put on this screen is what shows up on the launch. I know we got an emergency thing coming out. And here's what you would put on a splash screen, basically, of an app, okay, is what you would do. What we're going to do is we're not going to mess with the splash screen now or the launch screen. We're going to write to the main.storyboard, and I want to we're going to put a label right here in the middle. So let's go to the very top right of your Mac Xcode screen and click on that Show Utilities. My screen's bigger than yours, so bear with me here. Wrong one. Let me close out of that one. I'm going to shut down Xcode altogether and reopen it back up, see if it looks better for me. Okay, here we go. What we're going to have you do actually is take a label and drag it over into your storyboard. But let's see if mine's a little better now. I'm going to open up here. Okay, no, it's not. All right, I'm going to take this. And if you go to the bottom right of your Xcode, find the object library and scroll down till you find label. As soon as you find label, click and drag a label into your storyboard and then release it. Okay. And you don't have to do this, but I'm going to collapse my left one so I can actually see what I'm doing here. Okay, what you want to do now is take that label and move it into the center of your layout until you get that blue line like I have. Okay, then move it down till you see another blue line, which is now at the very center of your form. Okay, then what you can do is double click on that label. Just double click on it with your mouse, and I want you to type in your first name, '*S, hello world, then return. Then you'll have to drag that label again to recenter it. Okay. So let me see that on everybody's screen as I come by. You type in your first name, '*S, hello world, on your label, and click and drag it to its center again, and those blue guys will show up. Keep scrolling down until you find label. Yep. Going to see label. It's at the very top. You're telling it down too long. Yep. Click and drag label into the middle. Just double click on it and type in your first name, '*S, space hello, space world. And then click away and then click back to center it in again. Yeah. Okay, the reason will come up is your view is too far out. So double click on your view, then you should be able to do Okay. News and status show up. There we go. Yeah, click and drag it until it comes up. Now, if you're not able to drag a label or any object onto your view, it's because it's too far out. And you can double click on it to bring it back to the view that you can zoom in or zoom out on. So what I mean by that is this right here. If I do a command minus on my keyboard, you go and do the same if you want to. The command key to the left of your space bar and the minus key or the plus key. Minus key is going to make it smaller. Now, I can't drag anything onto that. It won't let me. But if I double click on it and bring it back up to full view, I can. Okay? So everybody got their name on there, right? Now what I'm going to do is have you click on that name again, or that label again. We're going to make it a little bigger. So if you look on the overhead, go up towards the top, make sure that this icon is showed, which is the Attributes Inspector. And we're going to take the font size and we'll bump it up to like 24. Where it says font, system, whatever, system 24. And there's a little up or down arrow that you can make the size bigger or smaller. Make it 24. Now, when you make it 24 like mine, notice it cut it off. So I'm going to have to make it wider. You'll have to do the same. Then click and drag it again and center it. One last thing before we run it again. In order to make sure everything's centered, Swift has made a really nice feature in here. If you'll come up and click on this icon here on your form, which is a view controller icon, and when you click on it, it's going to be a blue background and a yellow foreground. If it's not selected, it looks like this on the overhead. If it is selected, it looks like that. Make sure it's selected. Then I want you to go up to the Edit menu. Take it back. Editor menu, not Edit menu. Editor menu. Resolve auto layout issues, and then reset to suggested constraints. I'll leave that up there. So editor menu, resolve auto layout issues, reset to suggested constraints. What that's gonna do is resize the form and all of its contents to the device and put them exactly where you need them to be. So if this was a universal app, it would resize it for both the iPad or the iPhone, either one, with suggested constraints. Okay, so go ahead and click on that. Now let's do a Command R and run the app. It should say build succeeded, and then after just a bit, we should see that pop up, our app with the hello, your first name apostrophe S, hello world in the middle. And hopefully you shouldn't have to rebuild yours again like I did. But once it rebuilds, then it's going to show up. And since you've already rebuilt it once, it shouldn't have to redo it again. How many had the Apple symbol show up again? Okay, only me. So here's the splash screen. We have nothing on it. Now it's going to go to the main form in just a second. Boom. Okay, nothing's on the splash screen, but then it should go to this screen, which is your main form, your view controller form, with your first name apostrophe S hello world. Guess what you just did? You just created your first hello world in Windows. Yeah, in Windows. Yeah, you just created it in Windows. You created it in Xcode. All right. So here's what I want you to do. We're going to take it a step further here. I'm going to have you go ahead and hit the stop button on Xcode. I'm going to show you how to package it and upload it into week 1 exercise. And then we'll be done for this session. All right. Go ahead and after you've hit the stop button, which is this stop button right there, go to Xcode for me and quit Xcode. Before you package Xcode to send it anywhere, always close it. Simulator, you can also do the same. Click on the simulator, go to Simulator, quit Simulator. And I'm going to go all the way down to my desktop here on my Mac and have you do the same. Once you go all the way down to your desktop, and hopefully your desktop isn't as junked up as mine, and you should have a folder on there called Hello World, right? That's one we just did. Now, to compress this folder, we do a control click on that folder, So press and hold the control key on your keyboard and click on the folder while you have the control key pressed, and then select Compress Hello World. There it is. I want you to rename Hello World to your last name. Okay, mine's Conkle, so mine's conkle.zip. That's the file you're going to go into week 2 on Eagle, week 2 in class exercise, and upload that into week 2 in class exercise. Go and do that now. So go to CIS280. The easiest way to get there, by the way, you go to CIS280, go to modules on the left in the Eagle, go down to week 2 in class, and you should be able to upload it into that area. Now, on the instructions I put here were to change the splash screen. I had you put a label on the regular screen, not the splash screen. So that's okay. We did a little different. That's fine. But you learn from this little tutorial how to create your very first app, how to package it and upload it, which you'll be doing each week. Okay? You'll be doing it in week 3 as well, and so on and so forth. So everybody get that? Or you're doing it now? Once you've uploaded it, I'm going to switch gears while you're uploading it to back to my slides here real quick. So we did the in class on Hello World, showed you how to rename it, compress it. For next Monday, remember, everybody say no class next Monday. It's Labor Day, so we're closed, right? But we can't afford not to have class because we just have so much stuff to cover. So by Sunday, or by Monday actually, by midnight, Sunday night, week 2 assignment, which is basically your playground. Playground, still continue on playground, and discussion, playground discussion. Next week, no face-to-face, classes online, podcasts have already been done. Before you leave, though, I do want to show you real quick. I think I told you I was going to show you an app on the iPad that I recommend. And it is converted to PDF. You just don't have some interactions you have available that I'm going to show you. So focus on the overhead here, and I will, while you're still uploading your assignment in class, I'll push this up on the overhead real quick. This is actually a new Swift app, and it's not the updated one. There's an actual one coming out in the end of September. It's going to be more interactive, but at least you get a gist of what it does here. So I'm going to go to the beginning screen of this app. So this covers playground basics, naming and constants, strings, first app, and then it ends with an actual iOS app, kind of like the Hello World, called Question Bot, a modified Hello World with a question bot in it. But I'll show you some examples here of this app real quick. So we'll do naming constants. You guys have went over some namings already as far as, you know, variables. So we'll play with that one. I'm not gonna do that. Okay, so let's. It has a really nice quiz stuff in here. So playground is what we're talking about here. On understanding where it says here, which line would run first? That first line is a comment line. In fact, let me go back one. A little bit more. I'm going to clear my answers to go back a little further because this is stuff we did last week a little bit. Okay, so you can see that from where you're at. That line right underneath 80 where it says 81, 97, 80, and then the green line, which one of those 4 boxes is that green line referring to? Is it details you can't edit, align with error, results view, or a code comment? How many says code comment? The green line. The slashes, remember? Yeah, that's comment. I'm going to drag that up there. It's all right. Now, the next one, to the right. Remember in the playground on the right showed what? Did it show a line of error? On the right, results view or details you can't edit? Results view. So I'm going to drag that one there. Let's go to the one with the little red exclamation point. 81 plus 97 plus 80B. And has an exclamation point. Is this a line with error or details you can't edit? Error. So drag that up. And the next one, checking. That's details you can't. So only one got left. So let's check our answer. Boom. Got it right. Next one. Which line will run? The first line, which is a comment line, by the way. The second line, both or neither. Okay, Jack says second line. Boom, right, Jack? 2 out of 2 correct. All right, let's go to the next one. We'll do one more. Naming and constants. We'll do this one just for fun. Okay, so this has to, remember we talked about let and vars, right? On the left, it talks about some reflections it gives you, like what might this code be calculating? Let total equals 4 plus 7 times 3 in parentheses. If you remember math, hopefully you do, parentheses, does it give it first argument or other arguments after first? If you have something in parentheses in a math equation. Generally first? Generally? Okay. So what might this code be calculating? Notice it says let total video duration equals intro video duration plus clip duration times number of clips. So let's look at the right here. Which option uses a more specific name? We talked about week 1 when you're creating variables, make sure it's kind of a specific name so you kind of make sense what it is. Is X a more specific name or distance? Okay, let's try that one. Yes, we got it. That was a difficult one. Let's try this one. Which option uses more specific names? A, calculated speed less than another speed, or current speed less than maximum speed? How many thinks A? Current speed, calculated speed. Now remember, specific is the key word here. Which one's specific? Calculated less than another, or current speed less than maximum? How many thinks A? How many thinks B? Okay, majority of you say B. Correcto mundo. Which option uses more specific name on this one? Dollars per sandwich times customer count, or number of dollars times number of people? How many thinks A? Remember specific here, specifics. How many thinks A? Okay, how many thinks B? I think A won out with 3 hands. There we go. Which of these is an assignment? Remember, anything that's an assignment is something to the right of in programming. So which of these is an assignment in programming? A, describing a programming task in a comment such as, hey, to do, update the sharing message. B, it didn't say hey in there, I just put it in there for aesthetics. Giving a name to particular value such as let number of sodas equal 7. Or C, running calculations such as 4 plus 6 plus 9. Which one of these is an assignment? How many thinks C? How many thinks B? How many thinks A? Okay, I think B won out by 1. There we go. B was it. What does it mean to declare something in programming? We'll end on this one. Okay, to write a comment that explains your calculation, to write a hypothesis that you believe is true, to set a requirement on a performance measurement, or D, to give a name to something for the first time. How many thinks D? I'm not even going to say C, B, or D. You are correct. All right, well, I'm going to do one last one. It's 6 out of 6. Camel case. Which of these is written in camel case? How many thinks C? How many thinks B? How many thinks A? Yeah. I'm not even going to try the last one because I'm not going to do that one. Do I know? What? Whoa. Is that better? Okay, don't breathe too heavy here. All right, good. So that's just a little snippet. I'll send this to you guys. We just covered the lesson 2, which I think goes all the way up to let's see here again. We did lesson 2, but they have strings, first app, and question bot's actually a pretty fun app. Kind of walks you through it. But I'll send it to everybody, whether you have an iOS or not. And I'll send it to you in PDF form, that way everybody can play with it. Pretty cool, all right? A little something to do. Questions about what's due Sunday? assignment, discussion, which the discussion always has something in tandem with what we've discussed this week. And then reading, I did switch to reading, which I'll email you everybody a new link. We were on version 6 reading, I believe, for Xcode 6. We're now on version 7. I did update the links for this week and next week in the reading module, but I did not update the global bookmark these pages yet, so I'll do that. I did want to make mention one more, Saturday's lab times. You'll notice on your lab hours, Saturday wasn't in there because we don't need to have it in there because this lab is shut off altogether on Saturday. Meaning you do have free reign to come in here on Saturday. I just didn't put it in the schedule. We just couldn't put it in the official RDC schedule because of that. So, but you can come in here to let people know you can come in here and work. It opens at 8 till 1:30, I believe, on Saturday, every Saturday in here. And then I gave you guys a schedule, right, Monday through Friday, the lab hours. They will be working on these Macs, so you might see some changes, but just make sure if you have the username, password, you're good to go. Every time you log in, you do have to skip the iCloud login. I think that's it. But we'll get it better as we go on this semester as far as, you know, we don't have to hit that every time. But you guys, give you kudos, creating your very first iOS app for most of you today and creating your Hello World app. I would encourage you to read next week's, by the time you get done with this week's, which shouldn't take too long, probably another 30 minutes at the most to finish week 2 assignment. And we are done. If you have any questions, come see me. Otherwise, I'll see you in 2 weeks, but we will have the class online next Monday. All right? See you later. Enjoy your Labor Day.
What app do you use to make a virtual operating system for Mac on a laptop?
Oh, yeah, good question. Before you guys leave, how many wants to have install Mac OS on your laptop? Raise your hand if you're interested in installing Mac OS on your laptop. Okay, cool. So 4 of you, 5. Whoa, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of you. Okay, let's do this. Let me get my calendar. Let's do this. Next Saturday, I do have available from like 10 to noon next Saturday. How does that sound for everybody? Just raise your hand. 10 to noon next Saturday. Yay, nay?
What app do you use? Do you use VirtualBox?
Yeah, use virtual. No, actually, I'm using. I'm not using VirtualBox. Brain dead. Anyway, what was it? VMware. Thank you. I'm using VMware, and it's already prepackaged. All it is when you guys come in is I copy like a 30 gigs onto your laptop, a 30 gig folder, and I have to install VMware. I have to do a hack in VMware on the configuration file, but then you've got you know, Xcode running, or actually a full version of Mac OS running with Xcode already in there. So next Saturday from 10 to noon, go and come in. We got what, 5 of you? Is that right? It takes about 25 minutes per. So we got 10, 10:30, 11. I get 4. So we might go all the way to 12:30 maybe. So let's do this real quick, just so you won't be sitting there the whole time. Since you asked first, you'll be first bids. So 10 to 10:30 for you. Are you one? Okay. 10:30, 11. 10 to 10:30, 10:30, 11, 11:30. You're out?
It's not my laptop.
Not your laptop. Okay. All right. And who else? And 12 to 12:30, is that right? 10 to 10:30, 10:30, 11, 11:30, 11:30 to 12 for you. 11:30 to 12. So everybody know what time you're coming in? We'll meet in here and just knock it out. Bring your laptop in. Make sure it's fully charged up. Bring a USB thumb drive if you have one. And that's it. That's all you got to do. Cool. Thanks for bringing that up.
Next Saturday or this Saturday?
Next Saturday. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, this Saturday is Labor Day weekend, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll do next Saturday. Does that sound good? Yeah, I think this Saturday might be hard for everybody.
So
I'll email everybody, the entire class that. Yeah.
I'm looking at my Rock Valley Eagle,
Yeah.
and on my to-do list, it says I didn't turn in assignment 1.
Okay, let me look at it real quick. Let me turn this off. Okay, let me stop this recording real quick before I forget.